Chapter 8. Turning to Shelters. Days blurred into nights as Lisa wandered the streets, her body weary and her spirit nearly broken. She had nowhere to turn, no one to offer her the kindness and support she so desperately needed. The reality of her situation weighed heavily on her. She was alone, pregnant, and utterly forsaken by those who should have cared for her most. It wasn't long before she found herself seeking refuge in shelters, places where the walls were thin, the beds hard, and the nights filled with the sounds of other people's despair. But despite the harsh conditions, these shelters were a lifeline for Lisa. They offered her a place to rest, food to eat, and a semblance of safety, however fleeting. It was in one of these shelters, surrounded by strangers who were also down on their luck, that Lisa's son was born. The labor was long and painful, but she endured it with a determination that had been forged in the midst of her hardships. When she finally held her baby boy in her arms, she wept, not just for the pain she had endured, but for the love she felt for this tiny, innocent life. He was hers, and she was his, and in that moment she vowed to give him a good life. The determination to succeed, Lisa's resolve hardened in the days that followed. She had been abandoned, betrayed, and left to fend for herself, but she refused to let that be the end of her story. She had a child to care for, and she was determined to do whatever it took to provide for him. She began to piece her life back together, one small step at a time. She took on any work she could find, no matter how menial or exhausting. She saved every penny she could, slowly building a foundation for the future she dreamed of. It was a life of struggle, of constant sacrifice, but Lisa's determination never wavered. She refused to let her son grow up in the same cycle of poverty and despair that she had known. She would find a way to rise above it, to give him the opportunities she had been denied. And though the road ahead was long and loaded with challenges, Lisa knew she had the strength to walk it. She had survived rejection, heartbreak, and the cold, harsh realities of the world. She would survive whatever came next. For her son, for herself, for the life she had promised to build, Lisa would stop at nothing to succeed. The father of her child had turned his back on her, leaving her to face the harsh reality of survival alone. She had fought hard to provide for herself and her son, taking on any job she could find, sacrificing sleep, comfort, and her own dreams just to get by. But through it all, dance had been her salvation, the one thing that had kept her going when everything else had fallen apart. Now, as she looked at her reflection in the cracked mirror, she saw not just a dancer, but a survivor. A woman who had made her way out of despair and built a life for herself and her son. She was determined not to let anyone take that away from her, least of all a man like Sebastian Blackwood.